250 million years ago, the Earth was hot. Very, very hot. And a little amphibian, one of the last of his kind, is searching for refuge from the sun. A small hole in the sandy ground calls to him, and he crawls inside, indifferent to the sleeping creature he cuddles up with. Suddenly, the heat outside breaks, and a huge storm washes away the Earth, burying the two survivors together. This is known as the Triassic cuddle, where an amphibian called Brumistega and a predator called the Thrinaxodon somehow ended up in the same burrow together. And although it didn't work out as well that time, this burrowing behavior is most likely what brought the Thrinaxodon to the other side of the Permian extinction, and therefore allowed him to be the great-great-grandpappy of all modern mammals. Thrinaxodons are pretty scrappy. They're from the clade Cynodontia, which means dog teeth, and they're reminiscent of a badger or a weasel. He would scrape on by throughout the Triassic, but he was far from the only survivor of the Great Dying. Yep, the dinosaurs would begin their reign. Dinosaurs ruled the Mesozoic period. Being reptiles, they were cold-blooded, and therefore their activity was restricted to the daytime. The Nocturnal Bottleneck hypothesis uses these temporal niches to explain a wide variety of mammalian traits that we see today. The big dinosaurs kept our cynodonts small because, although there were big cynodonts at the time, they were easier prey. So the dinosaur dominance during the day forced our now small cynodonts to start exploiting the nocturnal niche to avoid getting eaten. A lot of mammalian traits seem to have derived from this pressure. We can use traits that a lot of extant mammals share to extrapolate on what our common ancestors might have been like, which includes the most obvious one, exchanging poor eyesight for better senses like hearing, smell, or touch. Think about it, a lot of mammals are colorblind, and there are also a lot of mammals that just don't really rely on their eyesight, period, like bats and moles. The nocturnal niche also could have helped spur on something that was already in the works for mammals at the time: warm-bloodedness. Thrinaxodon possessed many traits indicative of possible endothermy, including nasal turbinates, which help warm up the air as it comes in, and a secondary palate and evidence of a diaphragm, which would aid in breathing. Endothermy would allow animals to occupy the night without needing the warmth of the sun. But endothermy requires a lot more calories, which links a fundamental trait of cynodont evolution to higher metabolism: the simplification of the skull. 3 jaw bones were exchanged for 1 large dentary bone, and changes in the joints and muscles, expediting the digestive process and making it easier to meet the huge caloric requirements that came with endothermy. Not only that, but the 3 jaw bones would be repurposed as our middle ear bones, greatly improving our hearing, which we already touched on was far more useful in a nighttime niche. In the late Triassic, our cynodont ancestors would give rise to the mammaliform, our first true mammal ancestors. For all of the Mesozoic, we would remain in the shadows of the dinosaurs, coming out at night and silently diversifying until our reptilian oppressors were dethroned by a giant meteor, and since then, the land has been ours for the taking.